Shoes. Recorded live.
Good evening. This is Penelope Flynn, who's standing in this evening for William Hayashi at the May 2nd, 2014 edition of the Genesis Black Science Fiction Radio Show. This evening we are honored to have our guest, Tony Cade, who is Editor-in-Chief at Terminus Media and the owner of Challenges, Games, and Comics. So, Tony, let's jump right on into it. How does one decide one day that they are going to be the owner of a games and comic shop?
Actually wasn't my intention to become the owner of a gaming and comic shop. I've been, playing chess and collecting comic books since I was about 9. And, of course, acquired a lot of friends and stuff who were into comic books and also liked gaming. So I actually went in as a silent partner with a friend of mine who had already sold his comic book collection.
Wow.
And, I pretty much went in supposedly as a silent partner because I still had, my collection.
Okay, so you had your collection still. So when you say you went as a silent partner, did you go in as a consultant? Did you go in as the money man? I mean, how did all this, in fact, how many friends were involved in this process of putting together, a gaming and comic book store?
Basically what happened is that I had the back issues, and at the time I did have a little bit of money, so I went in, supporting my friend in the business. And then we also teamed up with another friend of mine at the time, Don Hilsman. And Don Hilsman is an illustrator and inker who's worked for Marvel, DC, and CrossGen. And basically what we set up was a studio where Don Hilsman ran the art studio, I ran a photography studio, and my buddy Tim ran the comic book shop.
Wow. All right. And when you all got into the comic book and gaming business, what did you expect it to be, and how was it any different than what you expected it to be?
Well, I think for a lot of guys who, grew up reading comics and we discovered the whole thing about comic book shops, we always wanted to work in a comic book shop. And since the local guy, would never hire me, he was always like, "Oh, Tony, you won't stay. Oh, you don't want to work here, blah, blah, blah." So when the opportunity arose with my buddy Tim, I went ahead and decided, okay, let me open up, my own shop. And we actually started up with our own shop, Quantum Comics, that was located here in Atlanta around the Virginia Highlands area.
Okay.
And that was right before the Olympics. So I guess that was about 14 years ago, actually.
Wow. Okay. And when you did that 14 years ago, did it turn out differently than what you had conceived of?
Well, let's just say that Quantum Comics didn't last anywhere near as long as we would have liked it to. Basically, the combination of our landlord thinking he could get more money for the spot because it was right around the Olympics and everybody was getting money crazy back in 1996, and also the fact that my buddy Tim was getting ready to go through a divorce, and his wife was talking about he was going to have to sell the shop and she was going to get half. We did what, any, logical men would do. We shut down the business so she couldn't get half.
Yeah. I don't know if right now they're a good idea. But when you reopened, did your friend also join you all in the reopening?
No, he didn't. Basically, we shut down the shop, and for about 6 months after me paying for the storage for it, I'm like, it doesn't make any sense for me to be paying storage for all this stuff. And I went ahead and reopened up the business just by myself, and and named it the Dragon's Horde, and also started doing gaming along with comics.
So what was it that attracted you to gaming?
I didn't hear that question.
What was it that attracted you to the gaming aspect?
I actually got attracted to gaming back when I was in high school because I was on the high school chess team at East Atlanta High School, which is a small little black school. It doesn't even exist anymore here in Atlanta. And we used to go to chess tournaments in some of the more affluent neighborhoods. And after we would win our matches, I think we were playing Parkview High School. And the kids walk over to us, and they're like, hey, guys, really nice game. You guys beat us good. Have you guys ever played Dungeons & Dragons? And, of course, all of us are from the hood. We looked at each other and we're like, what's Dungeons & Dragons? And so the kid invited us over to his house and introduced us to Dungeons & Dragons. And we were like, okay, we've been playing chess and we've been reading comic books. We have been missing out on a part of geekdom that we need to get involved with. This Dungeons & Dragons stuff is great.
So you started out playing Dungeons & Dragons?
Yep. So that was my introduction to the whole gaming side.
Okay, and then were you elevated to Dungeon Master, creating your own scenarios?
Oh, no. That's not where the fun is for me. I like actually, creating the characters and playing in the adventures. So I tried to avoid dungeon mastering as much as I could.
Ooh. And then, go on.
Oh no, like I said, a few years later, a game came along called Magic: The Gathering, which used a lot of the mythical creatures that we were used to seeing in Dungeons & Dragons. But then it was actually in a competitive card game where you basically both played the part of spellcasters, and each of you would have 20 life points, and you would basically build or customize your deck of cards to cast spells at each other to get the other person down to 0 life, and you both would start off, with 20 life. And that game became an instant success. And it's actually more popular now than it's ever been at any time. There's actually guys who go around playing in tournaments who actually make a living just playing the game.
Yeah. Wow. And I gather a lot of it, I think, also has to do with the artwork and a lot of the different card sets that are, it's really, been some remarkable artwork.
Oh, yeah. Over the years and stuff, they've brought in a lot of, top-notch artists that have worked on the cards.
And at your gaming and comic book shop, you all also, sell, is it board games and card games and video games, or is it, how much gaming is there?
Here we do miniature gaming, we do card gaming, we do board gaming. We do a little bit of everything, except for video gaming. Okay. The video gaming is the one thing that we don't do.
Okay. And with the card gaming, board gaming, what is it that you find people are most interested in? I don't mean, of course, Magic, the Gathering, and there's so many, other games, out there. What do you find people are most interested in? Especially, I guess I should ask, is your the demographic that you vent to, are they primarily, primarily people of color, just mostly Anglo, or how is your store marketed demographically?
Well, like I said, a lot of the gaming, it mainly involves with teens and people in their early 20s. Mm-hmm. But like I said, we get a lot of, older guys and stuff in their 50s and 60s that are playing Magic. Okay. And, so we get a lot of guys and stuff that play the game that bring in, their kids to have them play Magic.
So this is a multi-ethnic group, or is it primarily Anglo?
Oh, this is everybody. And that's one of the reasons and stuff when I, had the Dragon's Horde. I actually had it in DeKalb County and, basically, a black neighborhood. So I would, can take a little pride that I'm, personally responsible for at least creating, 2 generations of black nerds here in Atlanta. Because I taught these guys how to play Dungeons & Dragons. I taught them how to play Magic. I got them into board games. I wanted to have a place where, it was okay to come hang out and be smart and not have someone make fun of you because you were smart. Or, have it where somebody was saying, man, are you trying to be white? It's like, I was trying to create a place where it was okay, to be smart.
And right now, if you look at your store between comic books, your gaming, what do you find to be the most successful segment of, what you're vending?
Well, I guess in spurts, it would be the collectible card gaming with Magic the Gathering. Mm-hmm. Just about every gaming shop, is basically paying their rent with Magic the Gathering.
Wow.
Me, I, also sell comic books. Mm-hmm. So where a lot of stores and stuff had to get into selling single cards, I avoided doing that for a long time because I already had the steady income coming in every week with customers coming to buy their weekly comics.
Wow, okay. All right.
So comic books are like that steady money. It's coming in every single week because the guys are not going to miss the newest issues of their favorite books.
Right.
Whereas with card games, you have to wait until the next release of a card game,
right,
which might be like 4 months separated.
Right.
And then you're dependent on how popular that release is. Because if it's not a really popular release, then the demand for it is going to be low.
Mm-hmm. So are you all participating in Free Comic Book Day?
What was the question about Free Comic Book Day?
Are you all participating in Free Comic Book Day?
Oh, yeah.
So what do you all have planned?
I've got about $500 worth of books sitting back in the back room that I'm ready to give out to people all day tomorrow.
All right. So do you have anything else planned for your Free Comic Book Day? Any role-playing, any, food, dancing, science, what do you call it? My brain just went dead. Artists and writers showing up for your Free Comic Book Day celebration?
Oh, yeah.
Other than your
we've
sales?
got a lot of different activities planned for it. On Saturdays, we have like a regular gaming anyway, and we also have a big magic event that's going to be going on. And,
right,
we'll have like our special sales and stuff for the comics. And
so
we'll also have...
So all of you all who are in Atlanta or the Atlanta area, everyone who's listening to the show now, if you're in Atlanta or the Atlanta area, where is it that you all are so that they can be there to participate in your Free Comic Book Day?
Oh, well, like I said, we're located in Decatur, which you can basically say is a suburb of Atlanta, and we're actually located inside of the North DeKalb Mall.
Okay, inside the North DeKalb Mall, Free Comic Book Day. Don't miss out on it. I mean, I know because we have ours, here in our area, and that's one of the things that we do religiously every year is to make it participate in Free Comic Book Day. So, I mean, it's a great opportunity for people who are just getting their feet wet in comic books to get out and see what's out there, to look over, all the offerings and comic books, different areas of comic books. So, if you if you are someone who's a sci-fi reader and you have not really stepped off into comic books, it's a very good day, Free Comic Book Day, to get out and see what's available. And that's my plug for Free Comic Book Day.
And actually, since you had brought up signings, we actually have a few Glyph Award nominees, a couple of recent 2014 Glyph Award nominees that are going to be hanging out at Challenges Comics and Games this Saturday. We're going to have James Mason, who does the Urban Shogun comic strip. Have you guys had him on the show before?
No, not that I know. No.
Oh, man, you got to get James Mason on the show. He is a very, very talented artist. And he's up for, I believe, it's 3 Glyph Awards that his book is up for.
Wow. Well, he would definitely steer him toward, Black Science Fiction Society so that he can become a member of this growing group of diverse and creative individuals. I think that would be fantastic to have somebody of that caliber to join us with their talent and with their capability, and to give people pointers, and that's, I mean, it's fantastic just to even have their name attached. It'd be wonderful, as it is having you all's names attached. It's really wonderful. I mean, because I got to admit, here where I am, the sunny Southwest United States, and near the city of Dallas, that some of our bookstores, African-American bookstores, have closed. We have some comic book shops that have closed. So the fact is that your business is booming, doing well. That's a good sign. That is an incredibly good sign, especially for people of color to be able to explore this part of who it is that we are. And we're not going on to a long diatribe. I think one of the issues that many of us are involved in is the fact that when we were growing up, a lot of us who were children of the 70s and 60s and even the 80s and stuff, and 90s, get into the keeping it real mentality, where by and large our children were robbed of the concept of fantasy, to be able to pretend to make believe. And why can't you, be the pirate? Why can't you be the spaceman? Why can't, you be the head of a civilization, that's never been created before? And I think this, doing what it is that you do, selling this thing, which is fantasy, to, people who look like us, is one of the best things that anyone can do for any child of color, to give them the right to imagine, the right to fantasize, the right to, not have to keep it real. I think that is, there's nothing, I think, better that anyone can do for a child, or even a young adult, or hell, even an adult, the way things are going. So,
well, the way I look at it is that, the number one priority for anybody is education. And you cannot succeed without an education. And you need things like science fiction. Science fiction creates scientists, okay? It creates fields where people want to go into biology. It makes it so that people want to be engineers. All right, we need to do what we can to make sure that our people are into mathematics, that they're into the sciences, because those are always the expanding things. And it's one of those things that, people are always, worried about, well, hey, when I look at sci-fi or I see this or I see that, I don't see us in the future, And for us to be seen in the future, we have to be there creating that future.
Absolutely. And I looked at that, and even with the issues of writing, that those of us who are writers and creators, that for so long we have been kind of pushed to think, well, you can always make yourself the second. You can always be the sidekick. I said, but why do you not feel responsibility to make yourself into the hero of your own story? It is your story. And so, well, I'm not going to get, big play, major release. And at some point, some of us have to say, well, I don't care, because I'm writing for the people who need to see themselves like that, because maybe when their turn comes, people will be ready. I don't know if they will or not, but my job is to tell young black men and young black women and older black men and women that, this is your world. It's you can't abdicate your world to other people. This is your world. Write about you. Write about what you think. Write about what you feel. If you want to be the princess, then you write yourself as a princess. You want to be the king, write yourself as a king. Because if you don't do it, no one else is going to. And you don't see it because you haven't written it, because you're so afraid that somebody who is not like you may not like it. Who cares? Somebody who's just like you may love it. Heck, somebody who's not like you may also love it. But you'll never know till you write it. So, I'm a proponent of, getting out there and letting people have fantasy. Write the fantasy, so that for that moment that you're trying to get away, you can't go on a huge vacation, but you can pick up a book or sit down and play a game, and be the mage, be the sorcerer, be the monk, be whatever it is that you decide that you want to be, and know that you can do that and be you, and that's all right. And that's why I think is a great thing about what it is that you do. Now, I know that I jumped straight, into asking you about being the owner of a comic book store, but I haven't asked you too much about who it is that you are as a person. So let's back up to where you're from originally.
Well, I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, and I lived my formative years in Southern California. And
Okay.
after that and stuff, I pretty much grew up here, in Atlanta. I always used to kid and stuff is that basically when you watch the movie, was it Boys in the Hood?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, who got hold of my life story and didn't pay me?
So Trey was you, or which one was you, Trey?
But like I said, that guy and stuff that, left, Los Angeles and, came, to Atlanta to try to improve his life and get his education, like, hey.
That sounds like you.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. So when you came to Atlanta, when did you come by yourself? Did you come with family? Are you an only child? What is your family background?
Let's see. Family background. Well, like I said, I started off growing up in, a two-family household. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and my dad had a degree in foods. So he was usually like a chef or a food manager or a bartender. He was always doing something, in foods. And so, he kind of like spoiled me as far as like, having good dinners and stuff at home. It's like whenever we had a holiday come along, it wasn't Mom who did the cooking. It was like we were waiting for Dad to do the cooking.
Wow.
But
did
like
you ever,
I said,
but did you ever have any desire to follow in your dad's footsteps and be a chef and to cook?
I actually did. And actually for a 12-year time period, I actually worked in the food industry as a bartender, which is actually where I got the money to actually open up my business, because I actually just reached in my pocket and grabbed out my tip money. I didn't take out any loans or anything to start my comic book business.
Wow. That must have been some heavy tipping.
Well, it's one of the things. I worked at a conference center, which is a little bit different than working at a nightclub and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I was always surrounded by these salesmen and businessmen. And since I always was a person who could talk on just about any subject, I could always give them a good education. I mean, a good conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And so they usually tipped me quite well for that.
Oh. Wow. Well, that's see, now listen, that's a good way for us to finance our dreams, is being able to get out there and talk and engage people. I think that's really wonderful.
Oh, yeah, like I said, the only bad thing about it is that I always kept getting job offers of people wanting me to come work for their corporations as a salesman. And that was something that I just never really had any interest in.
Well, but
you know, I have...
And now look at you. And now look at you. Yes, but you're doing what it is, the sales, but for your own benefit, not for someone else's corporate entity.
Right.
So when you got to Atlanta and to further your education, where did you go?
I went to Atlanta Metropolitan College, and then after that I went to Georgia State. And at the time, with both of those and stuff, I actually thought I wanted to be a journalism major. And
so what?
And
so
he
where did
actually.
You end up? So where did you end up? I mean, as far as majors.
Well, actually, I wound up getting one in journalism, but I didn't really have an interest anymore in journalism, because while I was over at Atlanta Metropolitan College, I got exposed to photography and also video production. And I even got to the point where I was editor of the school paper, but my heart really wasn't into the writing anymore. You know, it was more so into doing the photography and the video.
So what did you do then once you realized that your your interests lay other than in journalism, or at least in the print form of the journalism?
Well, strangely enough, it's just, once you got out there and started, I guess being in the real world and, getting different jobs, I just never wound up getting a job in journalism. I actually, like I said, I actually had my own photography studio for a while. And I was doing a lot of weddings. I was a wedding photographer.
Ah, okay. And is that something that really felt like it was in your wheelhouse, the photography?
It was in my wheelhouse, but I got to the point where I didn't like Brightzilla. And, and I was going to put it out there, I was doing a lot of urban weddings.
Uh-huh.
And I would have people ask for the world, but they wouldn't have the money to pay for the world. That they want the weddings and stuff. It's like, well, we want you to come in with 4 video cameras, and we want this, and we want that, and blah, 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 blah. And since we spent all our money on the dress and the flowers and the cake and all this other kind of stuff, we only got $300. Can you hook us up?
Wow.
And, of course, the answer would be no.
Yeah.
So I got out of wedding photography and didn't really miss it. I was actually doing wedding photography while I was being a bartender.
So when you got out of wedding photography, did you still use your photography in any other way?
Well, actually, if you go, to Challenges, Games, and Comics Facebook site, you can see tons of my photography. I, still break out the cameras and stuff and shoot different events. I do a lot of the photography for Terminus Media. When we go to conventions or we do stuff for like the Fernbank Science Center, I'm the photographer for all of those events.
Do you photography and videography, or do you primarily focus on the photography?
Mainly the photography. A few people have tried to pull me to getting back into videography, but I've avoided that for right now. I've already got too many irons in the fire between running my own comic book and gaming shop and also the work that I do for Terminus Media.
Okay, well, we're coming up the time on the chronology, and where we stopped is that you were in Atlanta. You have finished, college. You have gone on. You have decided that you don't particularly care to continue doing wedding photography. You are now in our timeline where?
Well, like I said, we've already skipped all over the place and stuff. I've had jobs and stuff that was basically before I even became a bartender. And I gotta add this: I don't drink.
Okay.
Okay.
How can you be a bartender if you don't drink? How can you taste it? No, it's right.
Hey, I work for RJ Reynolds Tobacco, and I don't smoke either.
Okay. Well, there you go.
So my thing is that I don't have to do it to make money off of it.
All right. So once you got into, now you're a bartender. Now you were working as a photographer, but at the same time you had already been working as a bartender, correct?
I was a photographer before I worked as a bartender.
Okay, so you did photography first, then you went into bartending, then we left photography. Now you're still bartending, but what else did you add to it?
Well, like I said, during that time period that I was bartending is when I reopened up the comic book and gaming store.
Okay.
And then, I was basically doing both. I was hiring someone part-time to work the shop when I wasn't there. I would basically get up in the morning, go work at the shop from 12 to 4, get off of work there at the shop, and go 10 bar from 5 o'clock till 2 in the morning. And I did that for a few years.
Wow.
And then we had the big crash when everybody found out that all of those stocks were worth nothing.
Mm-hmm.
all those companies thought they had money, and they didn't have money. And then people stopped coming to the conference center. You know, we didn't have the Lawton Tush coming in and throwing money around. And so it just basically got to the point where they still offered me my hours because I was a head bartender.
Mm-hmm.
But it just got to the point that it wasn't worth my time to be away from my store on the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
And so after about like a year of just basically having me on call, I finally got my release letter. But by that time, I was already working in my comic shop full time and paying all my bills off of the comic shop money.
Wow. So when was it that you decided to, I guess, to incorporate Terminus Media?
Okay. Well, Terminus Media started off as I had two different groups that were meeting in my store.
Mm-hmm.
One was we offered art classes, and this is back when anime and manga was really hot, and a lot of kids liked drawing Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z and all of those, anime characters. And so we started doing classes for that, and that started drawing in more and more artists who would, want to come in and hang out with my art teacher, John Atian. And, while they were teaching the kids, they were working on their own crafts. And then also we had another group that was meeting, which was a group of screenwriters with John McGuire, Peter Mitchell, and Mark Stansel. And this group was working on screenplays and, trying to work on getting books done. So it was pretty much like a support group. And, and I, kind of like, worked with that group. And then one day I just was like, well, wait a minute. I got writers in this room, and I got artists in this room, and I'm in a comic book shop.
Mm-hmm.
We should start making our own comics.
Wow. Just like
and
that.
So basically, I got the two groups together, and, what we decided to do is work on an anthology book where, each team of writers and artists would put together 8-page stories. Because, we had always heard that the hardest story to write is an 8-page story. But if you can write an 8-page story, you can write anything else. And, the main thing we always drove for was like, okay, even with an 8-page story, you still have to have, set up, conflict, and resolution.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got together and we produced our first black and white, what we call Evolution 1, because we planned on doing multiple ones and evolving each time we did it. So we produced our first black and white anthology. Mm-hmm. And then after we put that out, it was like, well, hey, let's see if we can do it one more time. Mm-hmm. And then we produced our second black and white anthology. And then we're like, well, it's time for us to evolve at this point. So let's try it, and let's try doing one with color. And that's when we came up with Evolution 3. Oh, hold up. One of my editors just corrected me.
Uh-huh.
Oh, Evolution 3 was the theme book, was the theme horror book. Okay. And then Evolution 4 was our first color book.
Wow.
Yeah, we called it, was it Evolution Special Number 1. Evolution Special Number 1 was our first color book.
So now where are we in the Evolution series?
I didn't hear that last question.
Oh, where are we in the Evolution series?
Well, actually, the Evolution series is over.
How many books were in the Evolution series?
And the Evolution series had 5 books.
Okay.
No, third person, what you would say.
Yeah.
And did you take those 5 books and then compress them into one book?
There's been talk about going back and colorizing the old material and putting it into a collection. Mm-hmm. But, since that time, we've actually started producing our own individual full stories, that range anywhere from, 22 pages to 30-some pages an issue.
And all these are graphic novelizations or the comic books?
we're actually, well, what's considered a graphic novel is usually, well, some people consider comics a graphic novel, but for, a lot of us and stuff, a graphic novel is like a trade paperback where you actually collect individual issues into one book. And those are usually referred to as graphic novels or as trade paperbacks.
Right. I said that's a graphic novelization of it. So,
right.
So is that something that you all are looking at when you are creating these storylines? Are you looking eventually to pull them together into graphic novels, or are they standalones? How are you looking at it? How are you approaching it?
Well, each one is a little different. We've got one project that is Radio Free America. And right now we're working on the third issue of it.
Mm-hmm.
But once that one's actually completed, it's also available digitally right now. That'll actually be enough material to put it all in its own book form. And that one was created by D. Robert Bell, and it's co-written by Robert Jeffrey. Speaking of which, I mentioned Robert. He's actually been on you guys' show before, but he actually has 2 books that are up for Glyph Awards this year. His co-writing on Radio Free America is up for a Glyph Award, and his own creation called Route 3 from Terminus Media is also up for a Glyph Award.
Well, congratulations.
And also with stuff with Route 3, we're working on issues 3 and 4 of that one, and those will be collected into a graphic novel. Another book that we have out is called The Gilded Age, which is done by John McGuire. And this is a period steampunk type book. And the way we're doing that is that each issue is its own standalone issue.
Mm-hmm.
And basically it spotlights different characters as each issue. So it doesn't matter which one you pick up, you'll still be able to follow what's going on and not have to guide the previous one.
Well, as far as the artists and the creators, the writers and artists getting together, how is it that you pair people up or group people up in order to get the work done?
Each one is kind of like fluid. I guess, one of my positions with Terminus is to put together the creative teams, whether it's for our own work or for the contract work that we, do for others. So I try my best to, match up styles and also, take into consideration the temperaments of people. That's one of the things and stuff that, I would like to think is, one of my, gifts is that, I can kind of read people and figure out, who's going to work well together. Because if your writers and artists aren't getting along, you're doomed from the start.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I'm not batting 1,000 on that. I'm batting about 800. But I'm not batting 1,000.
Yeah, but if you were truly batting, and that was baseball, you'd be a baseball god, batting 800. So that's doggone good.
But like I said, I think and stuff, most of our creative teams and stuff really like each other.
Okay. And now, what are you all working on moving forward?
Like I said, right now we're taking a break from doing our own titles to do some contract work. Right now we're working on a project for the CDC where we're actually creating how would I describe it? It's a flash animation series, or more like a motion comic, where we drop knowledge on HIV and AIDS, but we do it in such a way that it's educational, but it's not preachy, and that we basically get people caught up in the story and the drama that's unfolding, that no one really notices that we're dropping the knowledge. the CDC has actually, done tests where they would give people a questionnaire to see what they know about, like, HIV and AIDS and safe sex and going to the clinic. And then after they would watch, our animation, they give them a test again. And people would not have even realized that they learned from the experience, but the test showed that they did.
Wow.
So, we're thinking that's, a big success because it's aimed toward high school and college-age kids, and they don't want to be talked down to. They don't want to be preached to, and, they hate for stuff to be corny. If it's corny, they'll turn it off.
Right.
So we have just enough corn in it to make it funny.
Yes.
But, we have enough drama involved, that it also grabs their attention.
So with
and
this
they,
work that you're
put
doing,
it in many different focus groups.
So with this work that you're doing, where is it going to? Is it going to go into the schools? Is it going to be television, public service messages? How is it going to be disseminated?
I'm not exactly sure what the overall end would be, but we are producing it so that it could be shown on your tablets, on your phones, over your computers, while you're riding the train, and we're, putting in, the closed caption. We're making it so that if you have an electronic device, you can watch our programming.
Wow. That's fantastic. That is fantastic. I guess the next question is, with regard to the people that you work with, how many people total are working in Terminus right now?
Oh, depending on how many projects are going on at a time, I would easily say like 30-some people.
We say 30-some people. I mean, are they writers? Are they artists? Is this your sales staff?
We've got writers, we've got artists, we've got inkers, we've got colorers, we've got audio people, we got the actors, we got the people who do the sound effects. You got our animators. We're using both 3D and Flash animators. We're a pretty diverse group.
So when you say actors, you have a lot of voice actors that work with you?
Yeah, for the animation, we have to have voice actors, to act out the parts of the characters.
Wow. So how many Flash animation projects have you all done so far, beyond the current work with CDC?
Well, the biggest ones and stuff are the ones that we've done for the CDC. We've done some little small commercial parts for other people, but the bigger projects are the 2 projects that we worked on for the Center for Disease Control.
Wow. And is there anywhere that we will, those of us who are here listening, will have an opportunity to see that work?
Like I said, it all depends on the schedules and what gets cleared by the CDC.
Okay. All right. And
that's something that's not under our control. We're like, I guess maybe the wrong word to use, but like hired guns. Okay. That they, basically tell us, what they want, and we try to get as creative as we can within the restrictions that are given to us. But, of course, since we're actually doing work for the government, there are a lot of restrictions on the creativity. And, they are our bosses.
Right.
Even if, we say that this is the best way to do something creatively, if they say, we don't care, we want it like this, we have to do it the way they want it.
Contractors, and do this basically, I guess, as a contract, if there's something that they say that they don't want to use, will you all have the option of using it yourselves?
Only with their permission. When you're doing work for the government, everything you do, they own.
Yeah.
And we're, even if we like jotted something down on a napkin, during the process, that's supposed to go to them.
Wow. So you all try not to be too creative while you're working on this. You shut down your creative mind until after the contract is over.
Well, actually, because of the restrictions, we actually have to be more creative.
And how's that?
It's one of those situations that our names are still going to be connected to it.
Right.
So we still have to try to, make it, as good as possible. And, we know we're doing a good job because even in, the CDC, what we've been doing has been nominated for numerous awards.
Wow. That's good. So now you're doing the flash animation, you've got your voice actors, you're working this thing for the CDC. Where do you see Terminus going here? Do you see yourselves actually making your own animated features or animated features based upon the graphic novels, the comic books that you all have done to date?
Well, like I said, that's one of the things we always talk about and stuff when we get into our meetings.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing the work that we do for other people so that we can do the work that we want to do for ourselves. And,
so now
right. But, it's also one of the things and stuff that we know, just from the creative end, is that a lot of times to get feature animations done or movies done, you have to sell rights or, get somebody else to invest in making, things possible. And unfortunately, anytime anybody's doing that, they usually want some control or a large piece of the pie.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I know right here, you have somebody here, Chaos Tune, who said Terminus Media has a government contract. I'm personally a freelance animator for Terminus Media. So within your group, you have people who are freelance animators that you've brought into this project, along with the people who are already with Terminus?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I thought somebody was saying something, but I guess that was the background. Do you now
you
have any
remember,
projects?
I'm actually at my shop right now, and there are
Yes,
tons of
I know.
in
Yeah, I
here.
hear people in the background. At this moment, is there any project that you have worked on in the past that you think, right now I'm really, really considering making this into an animated short, animated feature, something like that? What of your work do you see being the first, that you want to highlight or showcase?
Well, I don't know. I'm just going to, speak about this, from my own viewpoint and some of my favorite stories.
Right.
I really like Robert Jeffrey's Route 3. I think it would make a really good animated series. And I love Mark McGuire's, not Mark McGuire's, that's a baseball player, John McGuire's The Gilded Age, which is our steampunk series. And I think that it would be great as like a weekly TV show. It's definitely a show that, I would, tune into. And then we've got like a third project that hasn't actually been released yet, but should be released hopefully by the end of this year. It's called Geist by Peter Mitchell. And it is a World War II period horror story. And I think that it would make an awesome movie. It's definitely a movie that I would, go see myself.
That's good. And with regard to the work that you all do as artists, do you sell the artistic pieces alone? Do you do standalone artwork for sale at your venue?
Actually, we have talked about going and doing posters
Mm-hmm.
of our artwork at conventions or even doing calendars.
Mm-hmm.
But neither one of those things have, come to fruition at this time. We're still in the, the talking, phases of it, so we haven't actually done any of those things.
Right. And
but we, have, artists that work with us and stuff, and they do, like, commissions and stuff all the time. And then, like I said, we do a lot of, client work where people come to us with their ideas, and they actually contract us out to do all the artwork and illustration on them.
Right. And with regard to the work that you all are doing, is it just local? Do you have online subscriptions? Do you sell your back orders and archived copies? Any of that?
Oh, well, all of our comic books that we've done are available digitally right now on Amazon. And you can actually go to our website, terminusmedia.com, and get links to all of our stories. You can get them on Amazon. Soon they're going to be offered on Comixology. And then we've got a couple of other digital formats that the comics are available on.
Okay. And so everything is available for purchase on Amazon and Kindle and all that, or is it just...
Right. It doesn't matter whether you work in Mac, Android, or PC, Windows. You can read our stuff. It's all out there for you.
It's fantastic. And with your individual writers and artists, are they categorized? Horror, fantasy. Which genres do you find that Terminus Media, really excels in?
Well, actually, we're doing everything. We're doing horror. We're doing, adventure. We're doing, superhero types of flights. We're doing all the genres because we love, writing all the different stories. So, hopefully there's something there, for everyone. The only thing and stuff that we haven't done yet is some young teenage romance.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that we haven't done. It's one of the things that we want to do, but we haven't had anyone come to us yet, with a story that we were like, hey, yeah, that sounds cool. That would be fun to work on.
Have you all had that people come in asking for that type of product?
No one's asked for the product, but we know that the market is there.
Okay.
It's one of the things and stuff that, I realized and stuff, especially when I moved here to my new location in the mall, is that, female fans are a large part, or the largest growing part of the industry. Mm-hmm. And that, you have to make sure that you have products that they want. It's like, a lot of the big manga and anime boom, that existed a couple of years ago was driven by female fans. Even when you go to anime conventions now, the majority of the people there are females. And, of course, a lot of the guys are there just because the majority of the people there are females. If you get the females, the men will follow.
Well, I do think that that's one of the big draws, I think, in fact, for steampunk, because steampunk I find to be very even-handed with its treatment of, male and female swashbuckling type characters, the engineers, everyone is rather even-handed, even, more adventure, romance, whatever, that steampunk, I think, really kind of, just really dug into that and was able to, play it well, across genders. And I thought that that's probably one of the reasons why it's still, pretty, effective, active, marketable.
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially like, since you brought up steampunk, I mentioned before we do the Gilded Age comic, and that one has some very, strong female characters in it. And we made sure that, with that book, we had, one of our strongest artists, and everything he draws is like golden. It's like, it's like when you look at his artwork, it's like you hear the angels sing. It's so pretty. And, we've had, a lot of female fans at conventions tell us, how much they, love the Gilded Age, because we gave them strong female characters and we gave them gorgeous artwork to look at, and along with a really good, compelling story.
Good. So, with regard to, I think you also said horror is a genre that you all have done very well in. Which storylines in the horror genre do you find are, have the most traction? The zombie, stories, or is it things that are completely new and different?
Well, it's one of the things and stuff, over the last couple of years and stuff, the zombies and the vampires have been going, back and forth, tit for tat. That's why, one of the things that when we're doing our guy storyline, it's a horror story, but there's no vampires and there's no zombies. We're going to deal a little bit more into a little bit, mythos. We're going to bring you some, characters that, you may think you're familiar with, but we're going to show it to you in a different fashion. So we're not going to, just jump on the bandwagon like everybody else and, do vampires and zombies just because they're hot. Even though for a while we were working on developing a really good story, and I kind of hate that we didn't finish it, where it was, what if, what would vampires do in a world being taken over by zombies? And, who knows? We might actually, finish that story. But right now and stuff, it's, it's like sitting there on the drawing board.
So now, with regard to your store, and I know we talked earlier about Pre-Comic Book Day, it seems like you are looking, marketing, a huge level of demographics. I'm going from very young to, very experienced. Where do you see your store? Where do you see your media empire moving forward?
Actually, that was always one of the hardest things and stuff, about putting together like business plans. And people are always like, well, where do you see things in, 5 years? Where do you see things in 10 years? Those things were always hard for me to do, because with technology making rapid changes, you can never tell, what's going to be passé or what's going to be out to date in, 5 to 10 years.
Right.
So it's one of the things and stuff that I've always tried to do, with my business, is be very fluid, be to the point where I can always, change with whichever way, the tide is going. It's like at one time I was doing computer network gaming. At one time I was like, the Dragon Ball Z store. It's like if it had anything to do with Dragon Ball Z, I had it. I had all the action figures. I had the weapons. I had the wigs. I had the character outfits. I had the button-down shirts. If it had something to do with Dragon Ball Z, I had it. I offered, all the DVDs, whatever was hot at the time, I was always able to change. So I've always worked on being able to change and bring in different product lines from one time to another.
All right. Now, one of the questions that we had earlier, well, the things we discussed earlier, you said that when you started out in college, journalism, that you were a journalism major, that was where you were, but then you found that really wasn't your area of interest. So when you decided,
which is really bad, because I was editor of my high school's paper, and then I was editor of, my junior college's paper, And then I became, I worked on the, the photojournalism staff, over at, State, and I'm just like, okay,
it's not working. We're not working.
Yeah,
but
I
when you decided
did
that,
nothing with what I thought I was going to be.
So when you did make the change, when you decided that, okay, I'm not, I guess I'd never asked you. You when we were talking earlier before we started the show, you indicated that your children were grown. When did you have your kids during all this time?
Oh, now you're gonna have me telling on myself. Let's just say that even though I was smart, I wasn't exactly the wisest young man early in life, and I actually wound up getting 2 girls pregnant my freshman year of college.
Wow.
Don't do that, kids. Bad thing. Wear protection. Okay?
Okay. All right. So your 2 children that you have from, I guess very young, 18, 19?
18.
So now those children are what age now?
Actually, I'm like that basic guy who doesn't keep up with ages. I could tell you how old they are. I know their birthdays. Matter of fact, my youngest one, her birthday is coming up on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo.
Yay. Okay, but now do your kids, are they into the comic books, the gaming? Is that something that they had an interest in? Or ever?
Oh, no. No.
No.
No
comic books, no gaming, science fiction, nothing of that. Nothing?
Nope.
Writing? Journalism?
None of that stuff.
Wow. So that part of it, that's skipping a generation, huh?
Oh yeah, like I said, I didn't pick up any of that stuff, from my dad.
Okay.
My mom was my mom in SCIFI? No, I can't even remember sitting around watching classic Star Trek with my mom.
Really?
No. It's like it's just something that I developed pretty much on my own.
Wow. Okay. And how about siblings? Do you have any siblings that were like-minded?
Nope.
No.
It's like I've got a sister that for a while and stuff will read like some of my comics, like my Power Pack comics, but she never really got the bug. I'm actually surprised now that she's actually watching TV shows like Marvel's The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And she's been like keeping up with it. So she's not into it anymore as much as I am. But she seems and stuff like she enjoys it. But no one is into this stuff as much as I am.
Wow. Okay. All right. And when you told your family, when you made it clear that this was the path that you were going to take, what was their reaction?
We never had that kind of discussion. Strangely enough, when I really learned, my dad used to like bring me comics and stuff home, especially when I was sick and stuff like most parents did. And I would read them, but I didn't learn about collecting until later on from one of the neighborhood kids. And I went over his house, and he had like the long boxes of comics, and it had everything bagged and board, and it had a price guide. And I just thought, this is like the coolest thing ever. So I asked him, could I borrow the price guide to go show my dad? And so I went and I showed my dad, and he was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool," stuff like that. And then he started giving me money right around my birthday every year because there was a convention in town, and he would take me to the comic book convention so that I could work on my comic book collection. And so then when I got in my later teens, I was hormones started to take over, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. If I get a car, I can get girls. Because all the guys with cars get girls. And there's nothing more important than getting what? Girls. So I went to my dad, and I was like, Dad, I think because I didn't have a job. So I was like, Dad, I think I want to sell my comic books so that I can get a car.
Mhm.
And so my dad was like, okay, sit down. And he's like, so you've been working on collecting your comic books now for like how many years? I was like, about 7 years. And then he's like, so you want to sell your collection so that you can get you a car? And I'm like, yeah. He looks at me and he says, boy, if you sell those comic books, I'm going to beat your... So, to this day, cars have come and gone, women have come and gone. My comic books take care of me.
Well, there you go. I guess your dad saw the value in it. No?
You know, like I said, I don't think that he knew that I was going to wind up actually doing this stuff, for a living. But he knew that, me giving up something that I love, just to get a car, just because my hormones weren't letting me think clearly, was definitely something that he couldn't let happen.
Yeah. So now that you are in this business, does anyone in your family ever visit the store or partake of your products?
Oh, yeah. They come by and say hi and visit. And, Dad always says he wants to come help me out, but he doesn't know anything about what I do. But, the offer's there.
That's good. That's really good. So now, what you talked just a second ago, you were touching on issues regarding conventions. Do you all do the convention circuit?
Actually, I used to do conventions a lot. Actually, we did conventions before we even opened up our first shop.
Mm-hmm.
But conventions, are rather hit and miss. So, I concentrate now, because what I used to do is I used to go and do conventions and leave other people working the shop for me.
Mm-hmm.
But then the sales at the shop would never be what they needed to be, based on what I was making at the shows.
Right.
So now, I'm starting to see about doing shows again, but I'm going to send them to go do the shows. And then I'll stay here at the shop and see if we can keep the sales at the shop where they need to be.
Right. So when you all do your shows and these conventions, is it, you bring everything with you? You bring you bring action figures and comic books and games?
On the theme of the show. It's like we just did a show here in Atlanta last weekend, which is called Trek Track. And they say it's a general sci-fi, drama show. So if you're into stuff like, Star Trek, Star Wars, Serenity, Buck Rogers, stuff like that, that's the show for you. But, I knew a lot of the people who were involved with it were like really big Star Trek fans. So I made sure that the majority of the products that I sent to that show were Star Trek related. And, of course, those are the ones that sold. But coming up this Memorial Day weekend, there's a convention coming up that's called Gamerama. And this is all about, board games and miniature games and stuff like that. So I won't be taking Star Wars and Star Trek, products there. I'll be taking, board games and miniature games. And we'll also be involved in running some of the gaming events. So you have to kind of like make adjustments for the theme of the convention.
Right. I mean, one of the things that for me is that I see things all the time. I say, boy, that's really interesting. And I sure would like to do that, but never really get into it. For instance, I saw some people playing Warhammer, and I thought, man, that's what I want to do. I want to play Warhammer. Of course, I've never played it, but still, I said, man, I sure want to play that.
Warning. Okay, those pieces don't come painted. You're going to have to paint those figures.
But I do miniatures already. So that's why I think I like Warhammer so much. The concept of, building an army, that I really, really like that. So, just wow, do the little tiny models. But the problem is, I think, is that I get so caught up doing my tiny models, I probably would never learn how to play the game. So that's what I always saw that. I thought that was so neat. I really thought those things were quite interesting. And is that, but you all do those type of games as well, I guess.
Well, we do those types of games. I actually don't do Warhammer because Warhammer has a certain level financial buy-in that I don't feel that my customers, are willing to go with. So we do, other games like War Machine, which is a very similar game. And it's instead of like your big army base game, it's more of a, troop skirmish game. So, it's a game that you can get into with a $30, $40 investment. Whereas, when we're talking Warhammer, you need to add a couple of zeros in there.
Yeah, but those things are quite cool. Basically, like you said, that's a commitment. It's like people who are committed to toy trains and things of that ilk, that you need to have a place to display it, put it, play it, rock it. Because, it obviously takes up quite a bit of space, but it's very, very interesting to me.
Oh, yeah. Any of the things and stuff, when you get into the hobbies you enjoy, it's like I have customers and stuff that come in here all the time, even though I don't sell G.I. Joes or I don't sell toy trains, they are more than happy to share all of their knowledge about both of those hobbies.
Yeah, and that's great.
Like, when people are into the stuff, they're into the stuff.
Absolutely. And I think that, it's great. Like you said, you have people who don't do the thing that you do, but they come there and share what it is that they're interested in because they have, I guess, an opinion, which is, I guess, a reasonable opinion, that people who are working in the store that you're in or your particular store will have the type of open mind and patience to discuss, their hobbies with them, even if they aren't exactly the products that are being sold. So I think that's a really great thing, actually, to have people who aren't really buying what it is you're selling, but they're willing to come and share what it is that they know. And who knows, what that might, end up being, expanded to. And just a moment ago, you're talking about the G.I. Joes and things like that. And you don't do those, at this moment, have those at this moment. But are you considering, that thing of branching out into the figures collecting and things like that, or do you have figures just not, things of the G.I. Joe ilk?
Well, we usually deal with statues and action figures that are related to the comic books and the games.
Okay.
And those are the things and stuff, we, mainly deal with. Like if you wanted to come into the store and get, a Marvel Comics action figure or a DC Comics action figure or, something, related to like, maybe the, your TV show like Star Wars or Star Trek, that's stuff, that we have.
How about cult classics like Nightmare Before Christmas?
What was that? I didn't quite hear you completely.
I said what? But the cult classics like Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh,
carry
those things in and stuff, right around Christmas time all the time, because those are the products that make, awesome gifts.
Yes, absolutely.
Almost anything and stuff that, Tim Burton, has done in the past. You want to make sure you stock those products right around Christmas time. Yeah. They might not sell any other time, but they're going to sell during that time.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as what it is that you sell, I know that you're a comic book collector. What comic books do you collect?
Actually, I don't collect anymore.
So what did you collect? What does your stockpile look like?
I guess strangely enough, I like characters. I love the Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's like a really cool character. I love reading, the Mighty Avengers. I guess if anything and stuff, it's it's some of the comics that I like is where I guess my blackness really comes out. I wanted to have the first appearance of all the popular black characters in my collection.
Mhm.
I push the new Mighty Avengers storyline from Marvel because 90% of the team is black and Hispanic.
Mhm.
So. I like those books. As I said, it's one of the things and stuff, me and my fellow writer, Robert Jeffrey, always about, we like it, when we can see us in the books.
Mhm.
We like it when we can see us in the movie.
Right.
Just to make sure nobody forgets about us.
Yeah, especially us. And beyond your comic book collection, because usually people who are collectors of comics, they usually have a hobby or a collection of something else. Do you have something else that you collect?
I'm a big Deep Space Nine fan. I love Deep Space Nine, especially when, they let Cisco shave his head and grow the goatee.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. He could become a dangerous black man. Before, we used to call it, had the hair on him, it's because they wanted to make him less dangerous. He cut the hair off, then now he's a dangerous black man. That's all right. That's all right.
I had no problem with it. And then, like I said, of course, your base brother, what did he do when he got him a new ride? He had to pimp it out. It wasn't enough that his ship had Federation shields. He's going to go and add armor plating to it. He's going to soup up the engines. He's going to get a cloaking device put on it. He couldn't just take the regular ride like Kirk and Picard, just, how it came off the assembly line, except for getting a little rev up here from Scotty or Geordi, he pimped out his ride.
Yeah, that's true. I think the thing I thought was the coolest thing with Deep Space Nine is at the very beginning when they moved space station in order to claim the wormhole. Now, I thought that was very, very cool.
Oh, yeah. People ask and stuff, who's the best captain? It can't be anybody but Cisco.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm partial. I'm partial, man. I'm Voyager. I'm Voyager all the way.
Okay, great. I'm going to have to upset you here because I had a serious problem with Janeway. You know the problem I had with Janeway? That every member of her crew, no matter whether they are Marquis or Starfleet, always disobeyed her. She was being disobeyed every time she turned her back. Kirk wouldn't have put up with that. Picard wouldn't have put up with that. And Cisco definitely wouldn't have put up with that. Worf got out of line on Deep Space Nine. Cisco was all in Worf's face. He's facing down a Klingon, head to head, nose to nose.
Well,
telling him that you ever disobey me and you ain't never going to have no command. You ain't going to never have nothing.
But understand, though.
Say so.
But I got to say, but in Voyager, it's different because the command structure almost completely broke down because there is no more Starfleet. All there is them, and they have to absolutely believe in her, believe in the principle of Starfleet. Even with among you, there are people who are the Maquis who are not Starfleet at all. So I think that it's a completely different situation where you're never going to have your own command. Well, hell, you may never see home again. We're dealing with a completely different paradigm in Voyager, which is why I liked it so much.
Right. About the same thing, though. She basically, to keep up the Starfleet rules, she let her people be stranded to keep the Prime Directive. And all the way trying to get back home, she always wanted to obey the Prime Directive.
No, but she watched all the way through Voyager. One of the issues was that she always had regret over the decision that she made. That at the time, of course, it seemed like the right thing to do. And in retrospect, that was the thing that I'm supposed to do. But if she had known then that it was going to strand them like that, she may not have done it.
All I'm saying, if it had been Kirk, there would have been a TV show.
Well, that's why it wasn't Kirk, because we needed to have a TV show.
Whatever was necessary to get them back.
Yeah, and eventually that's what, they did whatever they did to try to get back. But the reality is at that moment when you're making that decision, based on, what are the rules, and maybe at the time that wasn't, the best time to be sticking straight to the rules. But she did. She did the thing that she thought was the right thing at that time, but who knew that it was going to strand them for as long as it did.
Well, that's the great thing about Star Trek. There's a series for everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's like even as bad as Enterprise was, that final season of Enterprise was awesome. But by that time,
I got to tell you, the problem with Enterprise is that it was so bad, I never got even to the third season. I'm sorry, Scott Bakula is simply not Starfleet material. Just not. I mean, I don't know whose idea that was, but that was not the best idea. Well, I could not stomach it. And then the young guy, the black guy who was on there, the term I always use, like, why did they make him such a round head? I mean, after you go through somebody like Cisco and Deep Space Nine, or even Tuvok and Voyager, to make this guy, he just seemed to me kind of like, meh. I thought he would be a much stronger character, and it kind of was very off-putting to me that he was not. So
I can't say anything about that because Anthony Montgomery is one of my Facebook friends, and I don't know, by some miracle he might be listening to this, so I have to disagree with you. I think Anthony Montgomery's character was great.
Okay. All right. Understood. All right. But the thing is, somebody was saying, who was that, Cass, was saying that some producer probably liked Quantum Leap as a kid, and I agree. I loved Quantum Leap. And the end of Quantum Leap, though, but the end of Quantum Leap wasn't
two bad episodes of Quantum Leap. There were only two bad episodes. The first episode and the last episode.
The last
Everything
episode,
else was
what
good.
The heck? Did you think that? What the heck? The last episode of Quantum Leap? I was like, what in the world? And Chaos Toon was saying, have you heard about the indie Star Trek film that got funding on Kickstarter? And yeah, I mean, actually, I've been watching those since they started with Star Trek Gods and Monsters. That I've been watching those Star Trek, films, the indie films that have been made by a lot, like Tim Russ, I think directed. I think he's directed maybe all of them. And if you correct me if I'm wrong. But I think it's a really interesting fact that people like living in the Star Trek universe. And I know there are people, they talk about Star Wars versus Star Trek, but still I think the Star Trek universe really took a lot of us, as those of us who grew up in the 70s and 60s and even the 80s, you think of Star Trek as this society, how we'll be in the future, where everybody is there and everybody is valuable, and then we go out into the stars as a cohesive group. I think that's what basically Americans think of ourselves, what we would like to think of ourselves, and what we like to think of the world. So that's why I think Star Trek is still such a strong, important part of the development of the human psyche.
Oh, and like I said, depending on which series you're in, mm-hmm. it can all follow your political views too. It's like one of the things and stuff I always trip out about watching Next Generation, which is Roddenberry's perfect utopia situation, mm-hmm. and you've got Alfred Woodard, makes the comment, y'all don't get paid. And the captain's trying to explain to her, it's like, oh, I don't need to get paid. Everything and stuff that I need is taken care of, and blah, 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 blah. I was like, oh, you're socialist now. It is trying, to relate to it. But it's one of the cool things and stuff I like about Deep Space Nine, is that Deep Space Nine brought the money back. You had to go press platinum. Everything and stuff you need, you couldn't just go out and get. You actually had to go there and, get something. Or Cisco's dad was running the restaurant. Mm-hmm. You had to come in with some money.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was thinking as Cass Toon was saying that the Star Trek film that was being referred to was Axanar. That and he's given the Facebook page as www.facebook.com/ /Star Trek Axanar. I believe that's one word. And it's StarTrekAxanar. So that's a thing. But and also, I mean, I don't know what I know you in the comic action figure business. What are you thinking about the new Star Wars film where I gather that John Boyega has been tapped to play the lead? Are you seeing that? I mean, are you projecting big sales for that?
No, I'm expecting, it's all going to be about how good the story is. My whole thing is it doesn't matter how good of a fan somebody is of any particular thing or whether they like a character or not. If they go to it and it's a likable character and they enjoy the story, then they're going to be a fan.
Yeah.
And most of the time and stuff, we go into the different movies expecting them to do a really good job with something we fell in love with as a kid, and they completely mess it up. So now it almost gets to the point where when they do something good, everyone's surprised. It's like, one of the things and stuff I raved about, watching Captain America was the Falcon and the way that the movie handled the Falcon. And that he kind of was a sidekick, but he really wasn't a sidekick. He was actually a character.
Okay, now, all right,
on
now.
his own.
All right. Okay, now, listen. Some of us ain't seen the Captain America film yet.
What was that now?
Some of us haven't seen the new film yet.
Some people haven't seen the film yet.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like this thing on Facebook.
Okay.
At this amount of time, if you hadn't gone and seen the film yet, why should you care about getting spoilers?
You may actually have a job, okay? Some of us do that. You get days off. It's like, I literally do work 7 days a week. And I made the time to go see Captain America that opening week. The only reason that I haven't seen Spider-Man yet is that I have to get the store ready for Free Comic Book Day on Saturday. If it wasn't been for that, I would have went and seen Spider-Man yesterday evening. Well, those of us who
Captain
still
America is like how many months ago did that come out?
Last month.
So it's like, I'm sorry. It's like there are no spoiler alerts, at this point. But like I said, I won't tell anybody what happens in it. But
Good idea.
Falcon is a great character.
Fantastic. Glad to hear it. No spoilers. No spoilers. But I'm just really thrilled that, at this juncture.
Oh, yeah. And one of the things if you guys haven't. No, I was going to mention this stuff too. It's like for anybody who hadn't seen Titanic, the boat sinks.
I think we already did that part. But my view is that the first Captain America I thought was really wonderful because it showed how a lot of showed how black soldiers were not just limited to the United States, but that people from the United States came and they fought France, and they fought in Great Britain, even if they weren't fighting in the United States, the ranks had not been opened up to black people to fight in the U.S. So I thought that was really, really good.
Oh yeah, and like I said, it's one of the things and stuff, that's written all over in history. It's like a lot of those soldiers didn't come back home because of how well they were treated while they were over in Europe.
Yeah.
And there were many, black, entertainers who, went to Europe to entertain
and made their homes
never
there.
came back.
Right. And I think that's another interesting part of the history. But again, the whole concept, of how we just kind of reaching out, broadening our appeal, broadening, our awareness. I think all this is really very, very important, and that we don't get to the habit of like looking, for instance, say, okay, Josephine Baker was singer. She was also a spy. And, you know, even though this is a real thing that happened and it's true, you know, we don't have to limit ourselves to Josephine Baker or someone like her being a spy. Anyone, we could do anyone during the war, and anyone has a reason to be there. As a singer, a nurse, even like the one man who was a waiter at one of the big restaurants and bars and cafes there. It's a black guy. He was a waiter, but he spoke fluent German. And the Germans had no idea that he spoke fluent German, so they just sit there running their mouths, blah, blah, blah. And he just sit there listening to everything they're saying and taking it back, you know? And I mean, all these things when people look at you and underestimate your capability. So, I mean, I think it's really, you know, that we still have so many stories to write, you know, within things that are historically accurate, things that have history, things that have no basis in fact at all, but we should still write them. So, you know, I'm very excited at the time that we're living in now. With the time that we're living in now, I see so much creativity, you know, from those of us who decided, I'm just going to write it. You know, I'm not going to hold back. I'm not going to be afraid, cowed, intimidated into not writing for the people that I want to write for and about the people that I want to write about. So, I mean, I think what is it you're doing, you know, with the comic books, with your media, you know, it's organization. That this is what our, you know, children, our adults need to see, you know, that it can be done, that you do have the right to mold your image, even in fantasy, you know, that it can be done, even in fiction, molding your image can be done. And for that, you know, just speak for myself, I'm sure many of the other people listening to the show, that we owe you a debt of gratitude.
Well, actually, you know, it made me think about one of my, you know, dream projects. And I know this is, you know, a big dream, but I really wish it would happen. I would love for there to be a blockbuster movie about the Moor occupation of Europe.
Yeah.
I think that would be a great, you know, epic story.
That would be very interesting.
And it's one of the things stuff that I don't think that people, you know, would know about. It's like, you know, when you look all through Portugal and Spain, you know, and you see the influence and the architecture and the art, you know, from that occupation.
Yeah, the Moorish arcs, you know, the Alhambra, you know, all these places that were built in Spain especially that, you know, were built during that occupation, the Moors' occupation of Spain. And most people don't realize that that's what the whole thing was with Columbus. They're coming here in 1492. In 1492 was when Ferdinand and Isabella went to war and basically ousted the Moors from Spain. And that wasn't that long ago, if you think about it in the grand scheme of things. But the footprint is still there, you know, that definite, you know, architectural, as you say, even with the language, in Spanish language, a lot of that comes from a lot of the Arabic that was brought along with the Moors. So it's yeah, I think that would be a fantastic project. I mean, that is an epic project for someone to write. I know that we started a little late. I know Jarvis said that he was going to let you escape by 10 o'clock, and we're getting close to it. So I guess in the last couple of minutes, you know, for you to have an opportunity to tout, you know, your store. Let us know. We talked about it a little earlier, but let us know where you are, how we can, if we are going to see you soon at any of the conventions and conferences, just in where we find you online, where we buy your products. Just, you know, give us the 2-minute commercial.
Well, like I said, I think we've given all the information. If you want to check out the store, you know, you can follow us on Facebook at Challenges Games and Comics. And you want to check out our website, it's challengesgames.com.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to follow Terminus Media has a Facebook site. It's Terminus Media LLC on Facebook, so you can follow Terminus Media. And then, Terminus Media is at, terminusmedia.com.
Okay. And all your information, your products for sale are going to be at terminusmedia.com?
Correct.
All right. All right. Well, I have just hooked up with Terminus Media on Facebook.
Cool.
All right. So I know, again, that we're getting down to the last minute or so of the program. So,
well, did anybody have any questions out there in the gallery?
Mm-hmm.
What questions are out there?
Actually, we went along. There's a whole lot of commentary. Not a question, but a bunch of commentary.
A bunch of well, I hope I've been entertaining. Have I been entertaining?
I think so. I think I've been, not just entertaining, informative. You have to consider, in this economic downturn, the fact that you have a comic book store that has survived, that's phenomenal. And
the comic book shop just survived in the hood.
Yeah. The thing is that you are living it day to day, but don't realize, my gosh, to survive this downturn, and this is serious business, doing this, bringing creativity, science fiction, fantasy, speculative fiction, different worlds to people, to bring them that, 20-minute vacation. You must be doing something right. You must be living right. Because, too many places have closed, and for you to survive this shows, fortitude, intelligence, marketing savvy. So, we're all not just, amazed, at you. We're very proud of you.
Well, I definitely appreciate it. I don't know whether I actually qualify for a lot of that. I think part of it just being, too stubborn to quit. And, just having the personality and stuff of never having a problem working and putting in the hours necessary to make sure that things happen.
Mm-hmm. Someone asked.
But it is, I do kind of miss having a 9-to-5 and having 6 days and calling off,
mm-hmm.
Because unfortunately with your own business, it's like the buck stops with you. If something goes great, you get to take credit. If something goes bad, you got to take the blame.
That's right. Someone asked you, do you make your own miniature resin casting?
Do I miss what?
Do you make your own miniature resin casting?
No, we don't do any of that. I've got customers and stuff that have the skills to do that. That's one of the things and stuff you learn when you get into this business.
Mm-hmm.
You have customers that are more experts in everything than you are. So, to help you survive, you want to take advantage of the knowledge that your customers bestow on you.
Oh, great.
Now, I have customers that know more about the games than I do. That know more about Magic the Gathering. They know more about board games. There's not that many that know more about comics than I do.
Right.
But for a lot of the other product lines, I'm
mm-hmm. definitely
dependent on the advice of my clientele. Like my female clientele. They help me pick out the women's tights and the panties and the shirts
mm-hmm.
and everything
mm-hmm.
else and stuff that we have here in the store. So I don't have a clue. I don't know what size to order.
Well, right here we have this with Sovereign Comics. Ask, what all did it take to start your comic book store? I've been wanting to do the same. So what did you do in startup to get this thing going?
Like I said, I just reached out my pocket and decided to do it. You go out, you get your distributors, you got to pick your location, and you just pretty much, work from there. Like I said, it was never a situation where I ever took out a loan or anything to start my business. The only time I even charged up credit cards was when the economy went bad. And I really didn't have any choice but to use credit in order to stay in business.
Wow.
But, my thing was like, hey, I'm into this stuff. It's fun. Other people are into it. Let's do it. And I've always had the let's do it personality. That's the only reason that Terminus Media exists. We could have all come up with reasons why we shouldn't, start Terminus Media, or why we shouldn't try selling our own books, or producing our own animes, or going out and getting us a list of clients to do work for. There's always tons of excuses. But, for me, I'm just like, yeah, let's just try it. If we fail, we fail. That's like the whole thing of what they say, entrepreneur, you got to be a risk taker.
Right.
So that's just the way I'm wired. It's like hey, I'm not the prettiest guy in the world, but it surprised me many a times when I walk up to a cute girl and start talking to her, and I actually get to date her. It's like if I come up with reasons why I shouldn't do it, I would have never done it and missed out on a lot of really good life experiences.
Cool. All right. Well, I don't know how much longer we're going to go. I know we're a little bit after 10, and I know, again, that Jarvis said that he was going to try to close out at 10 because I know you're really trying to prep for tomorrow. I guess, Jarvis, if you wanted to give me a clue what it is we want to do on this one. But as far as I know, I think we're probably about done. We thank you for stopping in. I mean, especially, again, on such a huge night, the night before Free Comic Book Day, and you're having your book signings and your art signings and individuals who are coming in who have been award-winning, award-nominated. It's just, you're going to have a heavy, big day tomorrow. So, best of luck to you. With that,
I have to, put a shout-out and stuff. I, couldn't do all of this stuff or even have been online with you guys tonight if it wasn't for my customers. Because, while I've been talking to you guys, my customers have actually been running the tournaments and running the shop.
Wow.
And, I pretty much was like, pointed here or there, and, they've been handling everything.
That's fantastic. And that's good to have, your customers who are your regulars who are there, every week, I guess, to play Magic.
They come in for Magic. They come in for the board games. They come in for the comics. This is, a social hangout. I'm closed on Tuesdays to do the new comics, and my customers know I'm here. So I'll be, trying to sort comics, and I'll be hearing, tapping on the glass, people wanting to come in, and hang out. This is, their fun. This is their social life.
Yeah, and it's late, and they're still there.
Oh, this isn't late. They've kept me here till like 4:30 in the morning before playing games.
Wow. You are serious, dyed in the wool, die hard, man. You are hardcore. We salute you.
Well, like I said, it's like, I take care of them, they take care of me. Like I said, right now, I'm here doing the interview with you guys. And, the customers that I hang out with after hours playing games and everything else are basically running the store.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic.
And
that's
like I said, it wasn't a situation where I didn't even ask them to. They just saw that it needs to be done, and they jumped in and started doing it.
That's fantastic. That is wonderful. I guess right now, I didn't really ask, but I guess this is when we draw to a close. So, Jarvis, I guess you let me know, is this what you had in mind? But as far as I know, that this is again the May 2nd, 2014 edition of the Genesis Black Science Fiction Radio Show, and of course the show is every Friday. My show Saturday. Every Friday evening, 8 o'clock for me Central, 9 o'clock for you all, I guess Eastern. And please don't ask me what the Pacific is. But here we are, every Friday evening. Join us here with the rest of the group of dedicated science fiction purveyors, consumers, readers. This is really a wonderful group, and I think just recently Jarvis posted that the membership just topped 4,000. So, we really are getting quite a few, people interested in this Black science fiction, speculative fiction, a point of view that, has not fully been explored, but we are definitely, on the road. We are out there. We're putting it out there, and you're one of the people that has been doing that, and for that, again, we thank you and are very proud.
Awesome.
Jarvis,
all right.
ready?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay, great. My phone often acts up. But I want to thank everyone for hanging in there. We had a rough start with the technical difficulties at the beginning, but it was most definitely worth it. Our host was great. Thank you again, Penn, for taking time out to do the show tonight. And also, Tony, the information that you dropped was really informative. And we got to know you a little bit better. You let us know some of the interesting parts of your life that we didn't know about. And the things that you're doing.
Quick, let me get another plug in there to show how much I believe in overworking myself. This October here in Atlanta, we're going to be having the first ever Atlanta Sci-Fi and Fantasy Expo.
Wow.
You know what? You can count me in.
So I decided I want to get into the convention business too. Hey.
All right.
Just keep it rolling.
Fantastic. That's fantastic.
Reserve me the first booth. But I want to thank the guests, the host, and everyone that listened or shared the information about the show tonight. It was greatly appreciated, and this was a wonderful show. I can't wait to have you back on again.
Oh, no problem.
All right.
We just have to figure a time when I'm not actually working.
All right. With that, we're going to sit down and close out, and I'll probably be back over on the main site in about 10 minutes.
All right. You guys have a good one. It was fun.
All right.
Thank you
again,
all for
everybody.
showing up.
All
Good
right.
night.
Good night. Bye-bye.